This live martial arts training video, we're going to go over mastering nunchucks, how to use nunchucks for self-defense and basic nunchaku techniques. Now, nunchucks, nunchaku, you can call them whatever you want, whatever term suits you best, but I'm just going to call them chucks maybe. I want you to use either a pair like this with the long string or the short, or in this case it's chain. Yours will either have a string or a chain, but it'll either be long like this or short like this. I'm going to show you what's the difference, why you have different lengths of chain or string, and how each one is used. We're going to start with this long one. You're going to hold it with your hand just in the middle of the chuck. You're going to warm up first with this simple spin as you start to master your nunchucks, how to use Nunchaku for self-defense and other basic techniques. You're going to do this simple spin, this little orbital spin. That's the basis of a lot of these moves. You're going to go forward first for about 30 seconds, and then you're going to reverse it, pulling it back in toward you for 30 seconds. And then you're going to do the same thing, but with a little bit bigger turn. So at the beginning, you're just doing your wrist. Then I want you to use more of your elbow, your forearm. And then, if you can, and I'm kind of limited in here, I want you to use your whole arm. And that's just so that you can see there are three different lengths of motion. One is wrist, the second one, and that's short, this is medium, and then that big one using your whole arm. And again, I can't really go through the whole thing here, but I want you to see those three different levels. After you've done this for 30 seconds in a warm-up, you're going to turn your hand over. You're going to do the same thing with your palm facing the ground. Nice little simple turn. Then you're going to turn your palm up, turn your palm over, try not to hit your elbow. Then you're going to come up and down. Trying to keep it tight for the camera here so you can see that. You do hit yourself, keep going. These are hard metal nunchucks or nunchaku. You can use foam, you can use wood. I guarantee you, you're not going to break anything. You're not going to kill yourself. You might feel it. I still feel that one a little bit, but it's not going to slow me down or stop me. It's not going to stop you either. Matthew, it's good to see you. So you're just doing this simple spin forward and then on the other side, and then you put it together, and now you have a figure eight spin. You want this figure eight motion to go on this small turn using just like this wrist level. Or you can make it bigger coming from your elbow, or you can use your whole arm to make it a lot bigger. Now, when you're defending yourself, you're going to hold the chuck here at the very end. And this is where I'm going to show you the reason why you might have a long chain or a short chain, or a long string or a short chain or a short string. And the long chain style is more traditional, and it's designed to create maximum power when you hit somebody. So these are more self-defense chucks or fighting chucks. The short one is designed more for doing tricks and all kinds of fancy spins, and they'll move a lot faster. They're called speed chucks. And that's why they have that shorter chain. So you've seen these before. Just understand that these are more for demonstration or for tournaments, competition, when you're doing like a creative martial arts form. And these are for self-defense. So I'm going to switch back to self-defense just because I like the weight a little bit better of these when I do the warm-up. You started with your simple orbital, and then you did your palm down, and you did up and down. So you have your basic figure eight. Now you're going to reverse all that. You're going to pull it back in towards you. And then you're turning your palm. Right now you're facing the sky. You're going to turn your palm over. So your palm is facing the dirt, and you're going to pull it back in that orbital spin. You're going to do this for a little bit. You're going to turn it up again. Palm down, palm up and down, and now you have a reverse figure eight. Now you can hold your chucks in the middle, at the end, or close to the tip, or anywhere in between. Knowing that if you hold it here, you're going to have more speed, you're going to have more control of the chuck, but holding it here, you're going to have more leverage, which means that when you strike in self-defense, when you're learning how to fight, you're going to hit them a lot harder because you're holding it longer, farther away from the tip. And when you strike with chucks in self-defense, you're striking with the tip, almost like a whip. And especially a pair like this is going to slash, it's going to cut the flesh. If you hit them with this part, the first maybe quarter of your chuck, you're going to break bone, or maybe they have something in their hand like a knife, or they're coming at you with some kind of weapon, and you can smash that right out of their hand. And a pair like this is very heavy, and that will work for self-defense. This pair is very light, and it'll still hurt, but you can see the end is nice and rounded, nice and pretty like that. This is not going to cut flesh. But this one, this is aircraft grade aluminum, and this will rip the skin. This is also makes it a better grip, and this here will cut. So that's the purpose of the different, where you're going to hold it. You're going to hold it here for self-defense, but when we're doing these warm-up spins, if you want a little bit more control, move your hand closer here, and then know that that's going to give you more speed. I like to kind of hold it in the middle because I like to have a little bit more weight in my hand. So you do your figure eight forward, you do your figure eight back, and now I want you to do a vertical strike. And when you do this vertical strike, I do want you to slide your hand down to the very end, right here. And that is so that you get the full weight of your nunchuck, and you start to build power in this vertical strike. You're just coming up and down. And your target for self-defense, if you're using it for self-defense, whatever you can remove or destroy, maybe hit him in the forehead, knock him out, hit him in the nose, hit him in the teeth, the eyes. Maybe he's reaching for you, smash that hand, or he's got a knife, smash the hand that's holding the knife. And as you bring it up, your palm turns up a little bit, and you bring it up this way. Think about hitting the hand in reverse, or maybe up under his chin or up into his teeth as you pull it back for self-defense. But this is a vertical strike. Now, before we move on from your vertical strike, I want you to add a spin, an orbital spin. That's where we started, just that little spin. But you're going to add that spin as you go down and add the spin as you come up. You're starting to learn how to master nunchucks, master the art of nunchucks. And it's just basic self-defense, or nunchaku self-defense, and other nunchaku techniques. Real simple. And then I want you to go to your shoulder and hip. Now you're striking across the body at this angle. Think about hitting now for self-defense with your nunchucks, your nunchaku right in the temple or into the ear, to the jaw, into that neck. Again, he's reaching with that hand. He's got that knife, smashing that out of his hand, coming through here, pulling it back, and then coming from side to side in your horizontal strike. And now you're going to put that together. You're going to start down, shoulder, hip to hip. And that it can be high, or as the head, it can be head level. It can be into the body, it can be down into the hips, it can be down into the knees. Any level as long as it's horizontal. So you're coming from the shoulder to the hip, from the hip to the other side, and back up to the shoulder. And now you've made a right triangle. I call this the Bruce Lee triangle. Bruce Lee was a master of the basics of nunchaku. Bruce Lee understood nunchucks for self-defense. He understood all kinds of nunchuck techniques. And he would do this move over and over. And it's just a simple combination of diagonal, horizontal, vertical. Diagonal, horizontal, vertical. And then you do that over and over and over again. Super basic, super simple. And then I want you to come back to your orbital spin out here. Now from here, you're going to do another Bruce Lee move, which is the front and the back of the upper arm. And you can see all you're doing here is you just turn your hand down and pop it back. Just over and under. When you bring it under, I want you to pop your chicken wing down, bring it out, pop it in. Super simple technique. This first technique is a striking, and then you get it back under there. By putting it under your arm, you're squeezing it, creating tension, and then you release the tension, and it goes faster, hitting him in the face for self-defense. Pop him, and then you can add a couple spins, pop it under, pop him, one spin, couple spins, but you just pop it out and put it in. 1, 2. So you can start here. Here's that upper arm. You can catch it, pop him in the face, do a couple spins, throw it under, do your Bruce Lee triangle, do some figure eights, and you're well on your way to mastering the basic art of nunchucks. I'm going to switch over to the speed chucks and show you on the other hand the same techniques, but I want you to do both sides evenly. This is your forward spin. Your palm faces the sky, palm faces the dirt, up, down, up, get a couple spins, down, get a couple spins, put them together. Now you've got your nice figure eight. Go into your vertical strikes up and down. Add that spin down and spin up. Go from your hip to your other hip, back to your shoulder, diagonal, horizontal, vertical, diagonal. Do that a few times. Bring it to your upper arm by just simply turning your hand down and back. Pinch it in, pop it out, give it a couple spins, pinch it, bring it in, bring it under. Super simple. Put those together. Bruce Lee triangle, upper arm, pop them in the face, figure eight. And then you can also reverse your figure eight. I don't think we did that on this side. But super basic, super simple techniques. Now, the next thing you're going to do is go from hand to hand in the reverse. You can go forward or you can go in the reverse. When you go in the reverse is easier. I'm going to switch back. Again, I want to show you long chain, short chain. The number one question I get when I make these videos from you is, why do you have a short chain or why do you have a long chain? Most people are familiar with the long chain. That's way more common than the short chain. The long chain, when you do it correctly, when you hold it here and you bring your strikes through, meaning you follow through and you hold it at the end. So when you use the long chain, it's designed so that it goes out, strikes, and it comes back because there's tension on that chain pulling it forward, that momentum, that energy that's in that forward chuck pulls it. And then when it comes down, look where it hits. It doesn't hit your hand. If you do it correctly, it doesn't hit your hand. Now this one will, because it's a short chain. If you don't do it right, if you throw it and you stop it here, you don't follow through, you strike here and stop, it has to smash you in your knuckles. And I know you don't want to do that. And you ask me that all the time. How do I stop? And people make videos on YouTube and other places that say nunchucks are bad self-defense tools because you're always hitting yourself. Well, you are if you do it wrong and you don't understand how to use them properly. If you know how to follow through with your strike, then you're not going to hit yourself in your hand. You're simply not, if you hold it correctly. If you hold it here and you bring it through, you're not going to have any power for one. In this case, the chain is going to wrap and it's going to hit. If you hold it in the middle and you bring it and you stop, you're going to hit yourself in the knuckles. But if you hold it on the end and you follow through with your techniques for self-defense, you're not going to smash yourself in the knuckles. And they'll say, well, what if you hit him in the head and it bounces back and hits you in the head? Same rule. You didn't follow through. You brought it to his head, stopped, it hit his big head, boom, and then it popped you back in your head. You didn't have the right distance. You need to have the proper distance. You should only be striking with the tip of the chuck. And as he comes in, and of course he's moving, so it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to be moving too in self-defense, coming through and fighting, but it's a distance weapon. It's not a close-in weapon. It's not a knife. You're not slicing him with it. You're striking, coming through here and coming forward, and you're keeping him back with this chuck. That's the purpose. You might be blocking with the chain or with a stick. You might wrap, you might pull. You can do all that with the long one. With the short one, this is not for fighting. This is only for fancy demonstrations and moving fast. It's called a speed chuck because you can go a lot faster with that short chain. You can do a lot of tricks and techniques, and it looks fancy. And you'll see guys do, they'll throw it up in the air, they'll catch it, they'll switch hands, they'll go side to side, they'll throw it up behind them and catch it, they'll do all this cool stuff. But just understand that when you see the short chain, that's a demo chuck. That's a speed chuck, that's for looking. That's a looking chuck, that's not a fighting chuck. All right, Gorilla God King says, are nunchucks legal? They're not seen as batons. They're legal in some places. They're illegal in other places. They're illegal in more places than they used to be. And think about it. Would you rather get hit by this or a baseball bat? I'd much rather get hit by this than the baseball bat. I'd rather get hit by this than a tire iron or a golf club or a billy club or a side-handle baton a police officer is carrying. These are great movie weapons. They're not necessarily, this would not be my first choice for a self-defense tool that I would carry with me. I'd carry my walking cane because I can take that everywhere I go. You try to take this on the plane or the bus or the train, anywhere you go through metal detector, even if it's wood, if you go through anywhere where they're going to pat you down and they pull you out a pair of chucks, they're taking them from you at least, right? Because the chucks imply that you're looking for a fight. That doesn't mean we're not going to train with them. You can keep this in the house for a self-defense tool in your house, do whatever you want in your home, and defend yourself however you like, or just do it because you like it. And you might use it for self-defense. You might just use it because you want to grow and learn something new, and do something cool and learn some tricks. So let's go back to those. We're going to do a wrist roll coming over the back side of the wrist. I'm going to show you with both chucks because the chain makes a difference in how, and that's going to happen a lot. You're going to drop your nunchucks, and I want you to do this when you do that. When you drop them, pick them up. And I know that seems like an oversimplification, but people worry all the time. Well, what happens if I drop them? Pick them up. You're going to drop them. Every time you try to learn something new, and especially if you get sweaty, you're definitely going to drop them. Now you can see with these, because the chain's shorter, I've dropped those too. With a shorter chain, they're a little bit easier to keep from dropping. It doesn't mean you're not going to drop them. You saw me just drop both pair. But the shorter chain for tricks is going to be a lot easier. They look a lot faster when you go through the techniques. And you can move them in and you can smash them. And you can still, like I say, you can still hurt somebody with these. You can still generate power, but they're not going to be anywhere near as effective as the other ones for self-defense. All right, I know what we're doing. We were doing hand-to-hand transfer. I want you to master the basics of the nunchucks. Now, the biggest challenge that you're going to have when you start doing this move, I'm going to show you with both chucks again. We'll go back to the wrist roll because I want you to get that too. But this one's a little bit easier. First thing you're going to be worried about is that you're going to hit yourself. And it's normal to hit yourself, and you need to hit yourself. It's okay. But how you hit yourself is important. If you hold it away from yourself and you hit yourself, it's going to hurt. If you allow it to wrap, over the shoulder or over the hip, it's not going to hurt at all. So you allow it to roll over your shoulder and it's not going to hurt. Now, if your hand, your upper arm is perpendicular to the ground, like a tree growing out, that means the chuck and your wrist is straight. That means you're not turning your hand here or turning your hand toward your body. If you turn your hand toward your body, you're going to hit more of your body. If your hand is straight in line, then it's going to be straight up and down. Then you take your other hand in front of your body, and you're going to try to go behind your back, but force yourself in front of your body, and then just grab it, because there it is. It's just hanging there. And then you bring it diagonal strike. As long as this is perpendicular to the ground and your wrist is straight, it's just going to dangle there under the back of your arm and your upper shoulder, or your shoulder and your upper arm. You reach back there, you bring it here. Just one side to the other side. And slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Take your time. Now this is the easier of the two transfers. There's one where you go under, and then there's one where you go up. You're going up to your head. Now this one, you're going to be even more, when you start, even more concerned subconsciously that you're going to whack yourself in the head, and you probably will. Just remember, it might hurt, but it's not going to injure you. It's not going to kill you. It might make you tear up a little bit. You might cry if you're prone to crying, and that's okay. Let it out. Then keep going and know that the reason you hit yourself in the head was because you pointed the stick at your head. It's your fault that you hit yourself in the head, is my point. Don't throw the chucks on the ground like you're 2 years old and kick them around and yell at the chucks. It's not their fault. It's your fault. And if you don't want to hit yourself in the head, make sure your hand perpendicular to the ground and keep it there. Don't move it. Don't reach for the chuck. Bring the chuck to your hand. Put the chuck on the bottom of your elbow. Practice rolling it up. And when you roll it up, it has to be just like your arm, perpendicular to the ground. If you roll it up fast enough, it's going to just go right there into your hand. That's the only place it can go, because you're pointing it to the sky. It can't go anywhere else unless you do what I always did at the beginning, and you'll probably do at the beginning, because it's hard not to do. You point it at your face. You point it at your head. You're going to hit yourself in the back of the head, and that one stung a little bit. But I'm not dead. There's no blood. So I'm going to keep going. You just roll it straight up and never, ever point it at your head. And when you do get hit in the head, just tell yourself, oh, I did it. I pointed it at my head. It's my fault. Take personal responsibility. Nunchucks are the best self-defense tool, martial arts weapon that you can practice with to teach you 100% ownership, full accountability. Everything in life is your fault. One way or the other. The faster you can accept it, the quicker you can get what you want in life. So you're coming across your body. That's a strike, knocking him out. And then you're bringing it here, controlling the motion, popping it up to your hand. Bring it across and bring it up. And I'll see you do this. When you and I work in person, I see you almost every time, and I'll say stop, because you'll start to immediately go like this, which means that you're trying to reach for it, because you know it's back there somewhere. And where this hand goes, this other hand is going to put it there, and you're going to whack yourself in the back of the head. So make it static and even look at it. Don't turn your head and look at it, because then you'll stick it in your eye. But look at it out of the corner of your eyeball and roll it up there. Bring it across, roll it up. When you're ready, reverse it. Make sure you have both forward and reverse. And you do them evenly, then go back to your Bruce Lee triangle. Go to your upper arm, go to your catch, pop it out and catch a couple times. Make sure you can do that motion. Go down and up with a spin. Go figure eight forward, throw into the other hand, side to side. When you get it over here, do a couple tricks over here. Your figure eight here, front and back, under the arm, go forward, go back, where we were under the arm. Oh, figure eight, throw it into the other hand, reverse directions. And now you have like a whole bunch of basic, simple tricks that you can learn in 10 minutes. And then you'll look just like Bruce Lee, because those are all the movies that he did in his movies. That's all the things that I can't remember, Mike Lee? I don't know. The Naruto cartoon. If you know that, put it in the comments. Can't even think of him now. There's a big dude and a little dude, and they both use the nunchucks, but they use them like that. The Ninja Turtles, they do all these same basic techniques. Yeah, right, Rock Lee, thank you. Rock Lee, who's the other one? The big dude. Broccoli. Yeah, Chuck Norris used these. Bruce Lee had a student who was in the movies who actually was a lot more talented and highly trained than he is. Um, Dan Inosanto, he's still around. He's a FMA, a Filipino martial arts instructor. And if you watch the movies with Bruce Lee, Mighty Guy, thank you, Might Guy. I always say Mighty Guy. It's Might Guy, Might Guy. Awesome, thank you. Yeah. So in the Last Dragon movie, or one of the dragons, Bruce Lee fights against Dan Inosanto, and Dan Inosanto does all these cool tricks. All right, let's go back to the wrist roll. Let me grab the other chucks. I get super sweaty in here. How am I so big for my age? That's a good question. Good question. Just the way I'm made. All right, so the wrist roll is as simple as pulling it here, open your hand, turn your hand over, and then bring it back. Let me get rid of some of these trolls. All right, so you pull it over, open the hand, turn it back. Pull it over, open the hand, pull it back. You're just bringing it here, open, and back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Super simple. Do the same thing with both. Bringing it over. Oh, there it goes. 1, 2, 3. But once you get these wrist rolls down, then you go back to your figure 8, and then you can add a wrist roll on both sides. So this is a forward or a positive grip. So there are two grips. This is the positive grip, also known as the hammer grip, and this is the negative grip, also known, oh, well, this is the hammer grip, sorry. This is the ice pick. For those of you who knows what an ice pick is, because I don't think they use ice picks very much anymore. You used to have to break up big blocks of ice with ice picks. We also call it a screwdriver grip. So you're just doing figure 8 forward, and then after a while, you can just start to do the wrist roll from one hand to the other. You had 2 chucks that were the same. Now these aren't the same, so they are going to feel different. You can start to do all of these cool 2-handed tricks, and then you can start to, I don't know if I can get it, there we go. You can start to do alternating wrist rolls, doing 2 chucks at the same time. And the funny thing about 2 chucks, fighting with 2 chucks is actually more simple than one, because you can't do any hand transfers with 2 chucks, unless you start to throw them and catch them, then you can do that. But you really start to limit yourself when you use 2 chucks. We'll do that one day when I find the other chuck that looks like this. The other one looks like that one. That one was made like 30 years ago. So it exists, but it exists in Ohio. Anyway, I think it's funny how many trolls there are in the comments lately. It's kind of a new thing. Yeah, let's do a combo. So let's start with a simple combo. We're going to start with a simple orbital. From this orbital, there's your high-pitched Bruce Lee scream. Get the other hand up, get in a stance. Then you go into your figure 8. And then from here, you go into your Bruce Lee triangle. And then you go to an upper arm a couple times, under the thing, pop them in the eye, and then go hand to hand. So let's talk about that combo again. So forward orbital, figure 8, Bruce Lee triangle, upper arm, catch, pop. You can also throw in a couple of spins, like a couple down and a couple up while you're in there. And then you can go hand to hand. Oh, if I can catch it. There we go. Hand to hand. Throw it into the other hand, switch your feet, and then do a similar thing, catching and switching. So combos is just putting one technique on top of the other technique, but you don't have to do that. All right, so WizKid says, how long have you been doing this? WizKid, I started when I was in middle school and I'm 53, so that was a long time ago. And of all the weapons that I use all the time, this is probably the least that I train with in the last 20 years. But there was a period of time, maybe about like 10 years, where I use these every single day. And outside, you do it outside, you can throw it up in the air, catch it, start to spin, start to move around with it, go between the legs, go around the neck, and you do all kinds of tricks. But I haven't done it as much. So I mostly use the staff weapons. But when I have, like, I'll have a seminar coming up where I'm teaching chucks, then I'll get them out and I'll practice every day, like 5 minutes a day. And by the end of the week, most of my skills will come back and I'll be able to do it. Yeah, WizKid says, good to see you doing it at this age. There's no wrong age that you can learn how to use chucks or practice chucks. And you should just keep going. Royoman or Royomen Sukuna asks, have I used a katana? That's another weapon that I used. I trained with a boken, and then I got the oar boken, the one that looks like an oar that Musashi used, and trained with a katana and did demonstrations and cut things. And so yeah, I've used the katana for a long time. But the same kind of thing, I haven't touched one in a couple of years, just because as you get older and you have a family, you got kids, you have to kind of pick. And I had a martial arts school for 30 some years, so I could do it at work before and after class whenever I wanted, or I could hold. Best thing to do is like teach somebody else how to do it. So I'd have a weapons class in the week, like at the end of the week, like a Friday night, and say, hey, this next 6 weeks, we're just doing katana or boken, or sometimes we'd do kendo, we'd do the shinai, the bamboo sword. And then the next 6 weeks, we'd do nunchucks. And then the next 6 weeks, we would do the long staff, the bow. And then the next 6 weeks, we'd do the jo, the medium staff. And then the next 6 weeks, we'd do the tonfa. And then we'd do the sai. And then the kama. And so if you do that and you keep rotating them through the year, you hit all of your major martial arts weapons. And then the whips. I love using whips and the chains with the ball at the end or the dart at the end. And so there are all kinds, and there's no limit to what you can practice and what you can learn. You just have to practice. And then here's the biggest thing, though. You have to become deaf to all the criticism and all of the small, silly little people who want to tell you that you can't for whatever reason. And some people will tell themselves they can't, and they find every reason in the world that they can't, instead of focusing on one reason why you can. And you have to remember this. It sounds like cliche, but it's not. In life, you can always go one of two paths. You can go down the path of all the things you can't do, or you can go down the path of, I can't do it yet, but if I don't give up, I'll get there. And you constantly grow. That's called a growth mindset. And then other people will stand there making fun of you or teasing you or give you disapproving looks or question you. But if you turn your ears off to it, you don't hear it, and you say, yeah, okay, and then you just keep going, then there's no limit to what you can do. Most people in life will limit themselves because they're worried and they're afraid what other people will think about what they do. And the reality is, after they think about it, you don't live their life. They don't live your life. And you get nothing. You get absolutely nothing out of tearing somebody else down. And you get nothing out of giving up. So don't quit and don't ever give up.